So my weed eater, or more precisely, my Craftsman 2-cycle gas trimmer, is not staying running. It'll fire and chug for a couple of seconds and it turns off. And so it's got to be a carburetor issue, so I think. And I decide to take the carburetor off, put it in my new ultrasonic cleaner, and get that thing going. And my guess is it's going to take me an hour or so. And so I decide to do that. What I don't realize is the rabbit hole I'm about to go down. Now, last summer, the gas lines needed to be replaced, so I replaced them, and I thought I did it right. And there's the carb off the machine. So let's get it apart and get it into the ultrasonic cleaner. Since I don't do this every day, I like to keep track of my nuts and bolts and screws. So I kind of keep them in a specific order so I remember how things go back together. Now, the right way to do this is to have a carb rebuild kit, but I don't have that. So I'm going to be real careful with these diaphragms. Make sure I don't manhandle them, and break them. Now I'm just trying to get this sharp razor blade under the edge, and there we go, it falls off. But I was just trying to get it under there because it was sticking just a little bit and still seems pliable. I don't know what's acceptable or not, but everything still looks good to me, so I plan on reusing that. And like I said, I don't have a rebuild kit, so I don't have a choice. I have to reuse it. Now the last couple of pieces come off, and now off to the ultrasonic cleaner. Well, boys and girls, I got a new toy. It is an ultrasonic cleaner. We'll give that a shot today. I'm using the exact stuff Musty 1 is using in his, and I'll show that to you here in a second. But let's put this in. Let's put this in. And let's get this thing going for 20 minutes or so. So, let's see here. Let's go 25 minutes. And here's the carb cleaner that I have in it. Well, this is out of the parts cleaner. I've blown it off with compressed air. Let's see if I can remember how to get this beast back together. So here I'm installing the needle and spring. And if you notice I said spring, and those of you who know me know I hate springs. This thing took me forever to get that spring back on there. And once again, it might be just because I'm a novice at it, but it took forever. I try this, I try that. I take my gloves off to get more dexterity. I'm trying tweezers. I just can't figure it out. But then I tried it upside down and I got it on. Kidding me. Well, then I finally get the screw in that hold down the spring. And then I start thinking about it. I think I put in the wrong screw, which I did, which I later took out and put the right screw in. That screw right there should be where the one I'm messing with right now should be the one that's holding down the spring. So I do flip-flop those a little later. Now the rest of the carburetor, it went back together, no fight at all. Went back just like it's supposed to. So now that the carb is clean and put back together, it's time to get it back on the machine, and hopefully this is going to run. Obviously something's still wrong, so I got to take it apart and just see what's up. What I find inside is the case is broken, so I have to machine something. That right there has to come off. Now this is just a short and sweet recap of the machining, but for you machining nuts out there, I did a journey to journeyman on all the machining that I did on this weed whacker. Now, I didn't get a full understanding of what was wrong with this thing until I looked online and saw some other guys take theirs apart. And then I realized that the thing that holds the recoil is built in plastic. Well, that plastic just rubbed and broke off. So now what I'm doing is machining a piece of aluminum that will be in the place of where plastic used to be, and that will hold the recoil cord on there. Initially, you see I just JB welded the one aluminum part, and what I do with this other one is just use Loctite on it, blue Loctite, because I thought it wasn't going to need anything other than that. But I was wrong. This is going to need some mechanical fastening as well. So what I'm doing now, later on, I'm going to have to redo and modify. Okay, so that's what that looks like there. Feels solid. Feels solid here. All right. Well, let's see. Got a new gasket and a new primer bulb. I've destroyed the old gasket off the back of here, so got a new one. And I was needing to tighten this thing on here, but I needed to get the rope back in here to tighten that up. So let's get this on here correctly. All right, so I think I got all of these tight in here. Make sure all these are tight. Got this on here, little thing I made. Kind of proud of it. And let's see. Let's get this on here. This is the new clutch. I have no idea which is the correct one. This one's been on here for years. But that size differential is crazy. But I got the corresponding, thing to go with it. So this is the new one. So what I'm going to do is put on the new one. It does fit. And we'll get that tightened up. And if it doesn't work, I'll put the old clutch back on there. All right. This, there we go, that washer. Okay, so just to fill in the blanks, I looked at this and I said, let me change the clutch while I'm in here. Let me change the gaskets. I'm trying to hedge my bets on all the things that can go wrong. I ordered the new parts, and you can see this is a different size on the clutch, but we'll see if it works. Well, something didn't seem right, so in the end, I just put on the old clutch because I know that that works. Well, Let's work on this side for a minute while I think about that clutch. If I can get this off of there. I need to clean that up. I know. Be careful with, razor blades on aluminum. And I'm being very careful with the angles I'm using so as not to scratch up the aluminum. I can't remember the order in which I took this stuff out. So I'm just going to start trying to get her back together. Actually, this one might be better to put the gasket on this first because I couldn't figure out which way it went, but it looks like it goes like this. Yeah. And once you start putting things together and you realize, oh, something needs to go under it, then you just take it off and put the thing back under it. So it comes together not too badly. Well, I left the throttle cable thing down in there. I got to pull that out. Alright, got that out of there. Now let's get this back in here. And that, ladies and germs, is case in point. Well, while I'm in here, I decided this fuel line's not on correctly. So we'll go ahead and redo this fuel line right here. Okay, so I pulled the fuel line off and it wasn't on there strong enough. There's this little washer here, and then this is the filter, and I'm gonna have to push that through and out. So let me get this off, this little washer, and then I'll push that out. So I got that off of there, and now that has still fuel line on it, and we'll push that through. And here is that, and now I see the error of my way when I replaced these fuel lines here recently. I didn't do it correctly. This should have been pulled out of the tank, which I didn't do. You can see there's only a couple of little parts there, little barbs that actually had my fuel line on it. The way to do this is put the fuel line on here and then pull it down through the tank, and that's the way I'm going to do it right now. So now I get the fuel line threaded down on all of those barbs, and then I have this installation tool, which is just a piece of wire, and you thread it up where you want it to come from, put it in a fuel line, and it easily pulls through. Okay, I got that through there. This goes through here and over to there. So let's measure that up about like that. And actually, let's be a little bit more precise. Take this old out. Put the new in. Comes around to there, so we'll cut that baby off right here. Oh, one thing I forgot. This thing goes on before. There we go. And now it's just a matter of getting the rest of the fuel lines plumbed correctly. All right, I think that's it, ladies and germs. You know, guys, after further review, I know that this will probably work, but when this gets set on there, man, there's about that much slack in it, and that scares me. So I'm going to put the old clutch back on, just to see, because basically we're trying to get this thing to run right. And so at least when we first took it out of there, that thing was all over the place. Now I got that solid in there. So let's take this one off, put the old clutch on. Now see, this one doesn't have any in and out play on it like that other one did. So, okay, let's finish buttoning this thing up. And wouldn't you know it, I'm calling another audible on it. When I pull the pull string on that old clutch, it's engaged the whole time. So I'll put the new one on and see what it does. Get the cord back in here, down in the cylinder, and we'll pull that clutch off and put the new one on. Several of these projects I don't have confidence in. This one I'm actually feeling pretty good about. So what I think I'm going to do is just go ahead and get this thing back together. And hopefully everything works. And let's see, that goes like that. And now a lot of these screws that I'm putting in, some of them go into plastic, some of them are going into the aluminum, which is like more of a machine screw. So that's kind of how I keep track of what screw goes where. Well, first things first, let's see if it's primer is working. Okay, that's sucking there, it goes into there. All right, that looks like the fuel is hooked up correctly. Yeah, something is not feeling right with the trigger, so I have to investigate. Well, I went back and fixed the trigger, and it's running well, but the carburetor needs to be adjusted. And so I went online and checked out how to do that. Now I'm adjusting it. It's running pretty well. So I keep adjusting it until I think it's running like it's supposed to. Alright, she's all put back together. Let's give her another try. And after a couple of more adjustments, I think I might have it. And now I'm starting to see something I don't like. The pull cord is kind of flopping around loose. So I'm like, that's not good. And I know it's got to come apart yet again. Okay, so what happened? Well, the part that I made there, and I used Loctite to hold it on here. That part came undone. So there was the part that I glued in there came loose. So I have to do a mechanical fix on that. I got to figure out how do I want to go about doing this. I think I'll go sit and think for a while. So I re-JB weld that piece back on. Then I drill and tap 4 holes in it, put a little JB weld down those holes, and then put set screws in it that hopefully will be a mechanical bond enough to hold this thing on there and basically keep it from twisting itself off. So once the set screws were in there, I JB welded them in and then give it a little test pull. Well, hopefully this is the last time I have to put this on. Well, now let's just see if blood, sweat, and tears is worth anything. I mean, except for the 70s rock band. Let's give this a shot. As you can see, I went and got a seat to get this one started because it took a while, but once I got it started, she started running very well. And now I just have to test it and see if it's gonna do the weed whacking. Now I will say that on the third time taking it apart, when I put it back together, I mixed up a couple of the screws that were supposed to go into the aluminum and a couple that were supposed to go into the plastic. Okay, so with a lot of pain, a lot of suffering, we're going to color this one a win. The one screws that I put in there wrong when I put the plastic screws into the machine surface, there's enough machine surface that it still sticks, but what I'm going to do is pull those out individually, put a little blue Loctite on them, get the cap back on there. We're going to call this one done.